You're listening to Thrive, your agency resource, the only podcast of its kind for creative, media, and technology leaders who are ready to dive deeper into consciousness, leadership, and agency growth. I'm your host, Kelly Campbell. This year, Thrive is brought to you by E2M Solutions, a trusted white label partner to hundreds of digital agencies across the globe. Visit e2msolutions.com/thrive today. Welcome back to another episode of Thrive. There are many ways that we can market our clients and even ourselves as agencies, but I think we can all agree that it's actually our ability to tell stories that is the most compelling. It's what makes us the most human, and it's probably what we're drawn to more than anything else these days. Today, I'm joined by Josh Irons, CEO of River Avenue Digital, a values-driven full-service marketing agency for small businesses. Even though that's a mouthful, I am really excited to have you here, Josh. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Kelly.
So prior to you starting your agency, I heard that you ran a larger digital agency in the Midwest while you were personally based in Philly. Tell me a little bit about the beginnings of that and kind of how you
Sure.
moved into creating your own.
Absolutely. So I was chief operating officer of a specialized marketing firm, about 50 employees, Inc. 5,000, 2 years in a row, large growth potential, really exciting, lots of fun. The only problem was it was in the Midwest and I lived in Philadelphia. So when I came on board, I said, well, I have to have an office in Philadelphia and build a small team here. But that didn't stop me from still having to go to Iowa 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks out of the month every month.
Wow.
So it was same bourbon, same burger, same hotel, same bartender who knew my name, but a great time nonetheless. But the problem was I had a wife and I had a son who was about 1.5, 2 years old, and seeing him on FaceTime and watching him talk to me through that was really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And like the light bulb went off and said, well, I'm growing this team, I'm growing this agency. Why can't I do it for myself? So one day dawned on me. I said, wait a minute, I can do this myself. So about 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago now, I stuck my flag in the ground by myself in Philly and said, you know what? I'm going to grow an agency from here. And we're going to start with professional services and grow it out that way.
Mm-hmm. And why the name River Avenue Digital in particular?
So this is one of my favorite stories because I am a baseball fanatic. When it's baseball season, I might as well be in Iowa for as far as my family is concerned. I'm a big Yankee fan. The original Yankee Stadium was on River Avenue in the Bronx. My grandfather also grew up on River Avenue in the Bronx. So bringing two things I'm passionate about together really made an impact for me. And it became really easy to name the company because I could have been sitting there for months to say, what should I call this thing? What do I do? And if you check out our logo, it is Yankee blue and Yankee gray. And the only problem is that we are not on River Avenue and we are not in New York City.
Which is fine. But my question and my curiosity is, how does that play out with Philly fans?
So anytime somebody introduces me, say, hey, this is Josh from River Avenue Digital. He's a Yankee fan. So people remember me as, oh, it's that marketing agency that's named after the Yankees. And now that's something that kind of catches their attention and makes me a little bit more memorable.
Yeah. So let's talk about that memorability factor. I know that you don't necessarily specialize in a particular vertical other than small businesses. You do focus on storytelling quite a bit. So can you talk a little bit about that as a point of differentiation and how maybe you do that differently at your agency than some of your competitors?
So we really, really feed into storytelling. And when we speak to a prospect or a potential client for the first time, I can kind of go through the process and say, okay, talk about the industry, talk about what differentiates them. Actually, it reminds me of a great little anecdote. So I was in a room of realtors, about 60 realtors, and I was just giving them an overview on social media and how to stand out from the crowd. And I asked the question, I was like, what differentiates you from the person sitting next to you? And hands went up and I called on somebody and said, well, I mean, I give 120%. I work harder than anybody. And then I said, well, how about you? I give 110%. I work harder than this. And I was like, well, so you're all differentiating yourself by how hard you work. You're not differentiating yourself. And then I go into somebody who I knew in the audience, and I was like, you used to be a teacher. How can we leverage that to help make you memorable and help tell your story as a realtor? And then like light bulbs started going off, and then we went around and I was able to extract a differentiation point from most people in the room. And I think that everybody really latched onto that and said, okay, I am different than everybody else. And there's a reason I'm different from everybody else. And this is what it is.
And so how do you do that at River Avenue for your clients? I mean, other than when you're giving that talk and those light bulbs are going off, what is the process by which you kind of extract the little details that are going to make that story pop?
So we've been trained in StoryBrand as a way to kind of extract story and help create story when it's really not evident, but we've put our own little spin on it. So we have a deep dive discovery session that lasts usually from an hour to 3 hours in some circumstances, where our goal is to extract those little nuggets about the owner, the people that work there, about the location, and just try to find a thread where we can say, okay, what is the differentiating factor for this organization that we can use to help tell their story and make them memorable?
Let's talk a little bit about growth for a minute. I know this is sort of like a little bit of a pivot, but growth is a challenge, whether you're focused and differentiating and have unique value proposition based on vertical or your service offering or the way that you do it, which is what you're talking about. Growth is a challenge for a lot of agencies. What do you think was the one thing that made a huge difference in your success, let's say halfway through or more recently in running your agency?
We grew pretty quickly. So it started off with just me. I mean, I went from managing a team of 40 to 50 people to managing myself. And
which is maybe harder.
It is harder because like I'm the only jerk that I want to deal with. So it was just about saying, okay, how do we manage process and how do we manage people? And one way we did that was by putting these processes in place and sticking to these processes and changing them when needed as we grow, just to create some sort of scalability. The other thing that we did, which I think was really timely and really smart, was outsourcing a lot of things that we didn't want to do ourselves. So we brought in a fractional human resource team. We brought in a fractional CFO. And these were all the things that were really bogging me down as the CEO of the company, where I was like, I don't want to do accounts receivable. I don't want to do accounts payable. So as we grew and got that stuff off of my plate and the team's plate, we were able to really focus on what we are passionate about and what we do well, and not the crap that we don't want to do.
Right. And what's nice about having those fractional service providers is that if the revenue isn't supporting full-time salaries, or even the workload itself is not supporting that, it's a great option.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with that more. And we have a fractional CMO offering that kind of fits into it. So as we're working with these other fractional entities, their clients are open to the fractional aspect of it, and we become great referral partners in that way.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody talk about that in that exact way before.
Yeah. So as we were interviewing different fractional companies, we said, oh, well, we're fractional too in some respects, and we'd love to partner with you and figure out how we can work together and raise all shit.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, let's take a quick break. Did you know that there's a better way to scale your agency? Whether it's web design, development, e-commerce, content, SEO, or even hosting, E2M is the reliable white label partner you wish you knew about years ago. Personally, I'm proud to partner with E2M because of our alignment in values and ethics. Head over to e2msolutions.com/thrive to learn more. Now, let's get back to the show. Speaking of fractional or outsourcing, you have also developed this partnership with E2M over the last 2.5 years, right? And we know that they're growing significantly, but 2.5 years ago, when you started your relationship with them, what did that look like? And how did that kind of shift your business?
So I knew that I didn't want to create a development team. was when you have a development team in-house, you have people who are specialized and you can't have the flexibility to do different types of things. And I wanted that flexibility. I wanted to meet our clients where they were and do what was right by them and give them the best options. So I looked around at different outsourced companies and I saw that E2M was kind of standing out from the crowd, interviewed them, and it was just like a match made in heaven. So I've dealt with overseas firms before, and there was always language barriers. There was time differences that were painful. With E2M, that was never a problem. I think they do a great job of bringing in the right people who, although their native language is different than ours, they can speak the language of marketing. That was critical for me. And also was critical is that there was a time of overlap where we're all in the office at the same time and we're able to communicate. So it's not like we had to wait another 24-hour cycle to
Right.
get something done when our clients had an issue right away, which really made me a lot more comfortable. And from when we started, we've really grown that relationship. And now we are able to offer our clients a lot more than we'd be able to otherwise.
So you started out the relationship from a development standpoint and now utilizing them for additional services that they offer?
Yes, so we're working with them on WordPress projects, SEO projects, Shopify projects, and we have internal team members here at River Avenue Digital who are project managers. And they'll be the ones who say, all right, the guys from E2M, they're part of my team. And I'm going to assign them this. This is what we need to do. These are the priorities. And it's a really, really symbiotic relationship where we get stuff done.
Yeah, it sounds like very integrated the way that you're talking about that, and I think viewing them as not just a white label partner or an outsourced partner, but literally like you just said, the project managers that you're on your team view
Right.
them as this is my team, right?
Yeah. And for as long as we've been working with them, we've been working with the same people. So people are coming and going, there's stability, and we celebrate their weddings, we celebrate birthdays together, and we laugh and we have fun. And they're a part of our Slack channel. We communicate through Basecamp. We have video calls. So it's really, really integrated into our community. And I posted something random on LinkedIn recently, and one of our account managers there chimed in and said something really witty. And it was something that they would say because they knew us. It wasn't something that somebody who I met at a networking event would come in and say. So it really made me feel good to see that they're really part of the team.
It's interesting because as you're talking about this, what comes up for me is like the relationality of this, right? Like this is a really deep, trusting, intimate relationship that you're developing. You mentioned that the owner, Manish, came and visited you and you guys went out to dinner. And I think that having a lot of agencies who are reticent to or hesitant to maybe develop a relationship with a white label partner is because they think of it as a white label partnership, right? Or a white label solution, as opposed to like, this is another human who's going to help me grow my business. As you said, it's a symbiotic relationship.
That's the way you need to treat them, right? And when you treat them as part of the team, as part of the family, they do a job for you that they're proud of, and they get to know your clients and they get to know the intricacies of your business. And it's so helpful as we scale, because it's not like I have to go out and find a WordPress developer who's excels at A, B, and C. I just say, hey, E2M team, this is what we need. This is what we're doing. Oh, somebody's already there. Let's go.
Right. So it cuts down on your time, your allocation for finding new hires and things like that. That's great. So if there is an agency owner who's listening, maybe about the same size as River Avenue Digital, and they are considering or have considered doing something like this, becoming a little bit more elastic, what piece of advice would you give them in terms of how they are vetting a partnership or a relationship like this?
I think they have to understand that it's not transactional. If they can kind of open their hearts and open their minds and say, okay, this is like hiring somebody on the team, but without the financial commitment, they're going to have a much better experience. Obviously, the personalities have to click. Obviously, the know-how has to be there. And I have no doubt that E2M has that know-how, but it's doing your due diligence and making sure that you're comfortable with the way this is going to be, because it is different. And it's not going to be like having somebody sitting next to you, or now having somebody on Slack or Zoom you whenever you need to chat. It is a relationship that needs to be nurtured, that needs to be cultivated. And when you're able to make that commitment, it works great.
Yeah. And like all relationships, we know that not everything is perfect, right? So I'm assuming that as many clients as you've been collaborating on together, something has happened. There's been a challenge. There's been a little fire that's come up. How have you been able to kind of mitigate or turn around any kind of challenge that has come up in the past?
Through open communication. When we are able to share what went wrong, why it went wrong, then the reaction from the other side is really, really quick, really fast. And they know that if we lose a client because of something that happened on their side, then that's less money we have to pay. So, but also the fact that they care so much about our clients is evident too. So as long as the communication's strong, then this goes really well, good or bad. When I need something special or I need special attention, I reach out to leadership over there and they put more bodies on a project. They bring in the right people and make sure everything goes according to plan.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I appreciate you sharing that story about your experience with E2M and just the story of how you've created this agency. It almost seems like it might have been a little bit of like a lifestyle thought at first, just because you had a family, but now it seems like, really dialing in and differentiating yourself, focusing on storytelling for small businesses. It's a great little niche that you've found. It's amazing what you've done.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks for joining me today, Josh. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us. If you liked this episode, please rate the show or subscribe wherever you watch or listen. And a big thank you to the official sponsor of Thrive for this year, E2M Solutions, your white label agency partner. Learn more about their approach, services, and subscription plans at e2msolutions.com/thrive.